Cool. Jeremy, thank you for coming to Plymouth. A great drive down, I'm sure, right?
Amazing.
Yeah, very scenic, the M5 or whichever road you... So I wanted to kind of bring you on the podcast to really talk about training and learning and how you've just done a webinar about why most learning is rubbish, basically.
Yeah.
Do you want to just unpack why you talked about that and the big challenge with learning new skills?
Yeah. So thanks for inviting me down. It's been great to meet the team as well today. So I've really enjoyed it. It's not so much training is rubbish. It's more, in my mind and Black Isle, it's what happens after the training. That's really the challenge. I was a HR director for many years, and the first thing that most HR directors or learning directors get asked is, great, you want, a budget, 100 grand, 200 grand, 50 grand, whatever the number is. What's the return on investment going to be? What's the impact the training's going to have on our business results? And that's the problem we've been trying to solve at Black Art, which is we believe that the hard work starts after the workshop. So
it's interesting you say that, and I caught you've got a diagram of like retention of learning.
Yeah.
And I read a stat recently that these like massive online courses, the actual completion rate for a digital online course is like 6%.
Yeah.
Do you want to just talk through what retention looks like? You're talking about that after the workshop. If you just put people in a room and say, this is this, this is this, this is this, what's the retention rate of stuff like that?
Well, firstly, we're battling with the forgetting curve, which is 75% of what you've learned you will forget in 7 days. And to be honest, that's if you're lucky. And the reason for that is many reasons, but one of them is we are living in an age where there is so much information coming at us. And while social media is, of course, really good, there's a lot of information. So if you think about the information that's coming at us, it's impossible to retain that knowledge unless you put it into action. And that's the challenge. So our retention rates are anything between 5-10% if you go to a lecture or if you do something online. Your 6% is probably quite high. In terms of completion, you get a lot of, all of the surveys and all of the reports will tell you that you get a lot of take up on online portals, but you get very few people actually completing it. So I feel good that I've done a course online, feel like I've ticked a box, but do I actually put it into action?
So obviously companies, if culture change, upskilling teams, adapting teams to like new ways of working, AI, all that kind of stuff. Why do you think companies spend so much time planning training and very little on how do we now get this to actually embed and be useful and make meaningful change in the business?
Yeah. And honestly, I think sometimes, and I've seen it firsthand, sometimes people want to tick a box and say, I've done something. I've ticked the box. We need some development of our people, and we're going to send them on a training course. And it ticks the box that they've gone to a really good business college, and they've had a residential course of a week where they've probably made more connections, networking, than they've actually got content. And that's not to say that the business schools don't have brilliant content. They have amazing content. And it's not to say that organizations don't want to develop their people. My question is how do you put it into practice?
It's a little bit like, I'm sorry, I'm demeaning you by talking about politicians, but politicians love a good initiative.
Right.
They like to announce something,
right?
Put the billboards up and all that stuff. But then when you start to implement it, usually there's very little implementation, or it just becomes a fad that just fades off.
Yeah.
Do you think a lot of training and a lot of learning is like that? There's like this little bounce that just fades away.
Yeah. And also what we're talking about, don't forget, is behavioral change. I've learned a new skill. This feels uncomfortable. This feels awkward. I really enjoyed that immersive workshop. Dean was great. I've got some amazing, knowledge. But actually putting it into practice is really difficult. That's hard. It's New Year's resolutions. 80% of them are done by week 2 of February. Why? Because to change behaviors, learn a new skill requires repetition and it requires discipline. And we're not great at that. We're not built as human beings for that.
So I'll give maybe a defense of L&D people. Very often they're in charge of a very contained,
right?
Like they don't have any power over the people they're developing in one sense, or authority in one sense. So I've seen this myself where an L&D person will bring you in to deliver something, but then you need actually the people's managers to actually like call out when people aren't doing their learning plans or taking action. How do companies get around that kind of major challenge of the disconnect of the people who are responsible for developing often have no authority?
Right. Yeah, and they're passionate about it, right? I think it's an overall cultural challenge, right? How many times if you read in a end of year report and the chairman of the organization says, people are our greatest asset. I mean, it's laughable. So great. Of course they are. Of course they're your greatest asset. But what are you actually doing to develop your people? How serious are you? Or are you ticking a box to say that we develop our people? And you're absolutely right. It's not often the HR or the development areas who are passionate at developing people. It's getting a culture of learning and development and coaching, but not just because it's a nice thing to do, because it has business impact. If your people are better trained and more equipped to deal with change and to deal with clients better, it's revenue. It's it's a business impact we're talking about. It's not a nice to have. And I think that's what we're so passionate about, and that's why we're so passionate about development of people. It's a business requirement. It's not just do you know what, we need to get round to developing our people.
Do you think then, so just being, I love doing workshops, right? So I have to be careful there, right? I love doing workshops, but do you think there's companies end up spending more on training? I'm just thinking about one particular example in my mind where a company will bring you in to upskill and refresh train their team like once every 6 to 9 months. And it's like, what you really need to do is probably do less workshops and actually do more. Yeah. How do we practically implement this and creating the routines and the discipline?
Yeah.
But yet some companies will happily go from, I don't know, I'm making a number up here, but they do a workshop and they get a 5% or 5% improvement or a 1% improvement in the people. Right. And then they go again and get another 1%. Actually, if they just went, let's stop just doing workshops on their own and do something a bit more joined up, they'd get a bigger improvement.
Absolutely. Because it's the quality of the follow-up that makes the difference. It's not the quality of the workshops. I mean, I genuinely believe that if you have immersive workshops where you get people to actually do the doing, again, you obviously get retention, but then people buy into what it is that you need to do. But it's no different to learning any skill. You wouldn't teach somebody how to play the guitar with 25 PowerPoints. So here's a guitar. This is a chord. Play the chord. But if you're my guitar teacher and I come back and see you in a week's time, but I haven't done any practice, and you say, have you got on? I said, well, not really. I'm still pretty crap with the guitar. And well, what practice do you put in? Well, I didn't do any. It's no different to learning a skill within the workplace.
So do you think companies So I agree with you. When you do some kind of implementation, like you get way better retention, but also better adoption.
Yes.
Do you think companies actually give people the time and the space, or even deliberately create the space for people to adopt these new skills?
No, I think it's a really good point. And I think it's easy for me because I'm passionate about it, and you are too, about developing people and getting, trying to get the best return on investment and business impact. But business is relentless. The organizations we work with, it's relentless. It's incredibly competitive, the marketplace. So it's unrealistic for people to go from a workshop with all the best intentions to go back to the desk and still not have 100 emails to deal with. And that therein lies the challenge. So what we advocate and what we are so passionate about is, don't try and do everything. Just do one really small incremental thing that's going to make the difference. Use just one of our models so that you think about that model before you do something. That's all we ask for, because that's where the magic happens, because you build habits with the small incremental steps. You don't build a habit by doing one thing. Gentlemen of a certain age think, I need to get fitter. So they dig out the trainers from the back of the wardrobe and think, I used to be able to run 5 miles. So I think, get the trainers on and I'll go and run 5 miles. Well, you run 5, you can't walk for another 5 days. You'd be much better off walking the dog 20 minutes for 5 days. But do something small that's going to get the result. It's exactly the same in the workplace. We see it all the time. People come back from it. They love the workshops. This is amazing. This is brilliant. I'm going to do this, and this. And they take actions on nudges. They might take 6 or 7 nudges. And you think, it's just not realistic. Do something really small, but really impactful, and do it consistently over a period of time. Then it just becomes what you do. That's what I do. I'm a good presenter because that's what I do. And you identify much more with the person that does it, as opposed to it's a new habit that you're trying to build. It's
almost the same thing though, isn't it? As I was listening to there, you're talking about, like, as individuals, we want to bite off more than we can chew.
Absolutely.
And companies want to bite off more than they can chew. So let's do a workshop and change everything.
Right.
And then the individual going, right, I'm going to try and put a whole load of stuff into action that actually I've not thought about. Can I even sustain this?
Right. Right. So you go to a presentation workshop and you go, right, we show videos of, the Obamas, amazing orators, amazing. So they come out and they go, well, that's what I want to do. And you think, well, great, but the reality is of where you are now to get to there, that's a long journey. Now, if you're up for it, we're up for it. But what could you do as one small incremental step that's going to make you a better presenter day to day? That might be actually communicating better on email. It might be just, do you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to listen in the next meeting. And that's what we encourage, is just do one small thing. And once you've nailed that, then go on. That's how behavior change works. Mm-hmm. But of course, what we all want is we all want the outcome without having to do the work. That's why we get the trainers on, run 5 miles and go, da-da. Yeah. And of course, that's not what happens.
I'm just thinking of an example of myself. So I film a lot of videos, or try to. And there's the formula that you have to do, right? Oh, you do this, then you do this, then you do this, then you... But of course, it's like, how are you supposed to remember this? Do you know what I mean? It's like, you've just given me a formula. That's great, but I've got to remember this every time I'm doing something. And you're right. If you did like one bit and nailed the one bit,
right?
So that becomes instinctive. Every time you start something, you're starting with that bit.
Right.
Then you go, right, do the next bit. But no, I want to do the whole thing.
Yeah.
And I'd end up having to carry like instructions around with me. And then I'd have to remember the instruction. It's just...
But there's nothing wrong with the ambition, is there? That we want to be better. But I'm literally like you. I'm the world's worst. I'm like, right, that's it. I'm going to do whatever it is. It just is unrealistic. I'm always coming up with a new idea. I'm always wanting to do something, but it's unrealistic. And I think, going back to your point with businesses, is if you're bringing in somebody to do externally for learning development, or if it's internal, what is the real expectation out of this? If it's a communication course, what is your real objective here? Is it just to be a little bit better at something that's going to make a difference? And communication is a classic one. There's so much literature out there that says you can improve productivity in an organization by 30 or 40% by just getting people to write better emails. Because how many emails do you then send back to someone and go, I don't know, what is it you want? You mean what? And then that comes back and says, oh, this is what it is. And then they clarify and go, that's 5 emails. But if the email was written really well to start with, this is the point, these are the 3 actions I want you to take. Cool. Think about that, how inefficient organization. Everyone's always moaning about emails.
There's nothing worse than War and Peace emails. Like almost like before I ask you anything, I want to give you a whole backstory. And I'm the kind of person, what do you want?
Yeah, tell me. But in some organisations, they just use the title. They're not allowed to use anything other than just the title. This is what I want. Brilliant. Okay, I can make a decision. No, yes. But I'm exaggerating to make the point. But comms is a really good example. Rather than trying to be, as competent as the Obamas in terms of being able to stand up and speak to thousands of people, why not just be better at communications? That would literally revolutionize your whole business. People get things done much quicker.
So you're obviously passionate about people and learning, but you've kind of come out of being a HR director. Most people who come out of HR go on and never want to talk to a human being ever again. What made you launch Black Isle Group? What made you go into this?
Yeah. Well, Black Isle's actually been around for 20 odd years, but I came into it with more of a kind of an idea, which is the problem we're trying to solve, which is how do you get people to embed the learning? The big question, my whole passion is how do you, the human potential, how can you really, and for those who really want it, those who really want to make the change, those who really want to develop themselves, how do you make that as easy as possible? Because it's really hard. Let's be clear what we're trying to talk about is change, and behavior change is really, really hard. Why is there a multi-billion pound industry in health and fitness? It's because we want to make the changes, but it's really hard to do it because that's not how we're wired. The human brain is not wired for change. We are still got, we've got prehistoric minds, which are, we're still looking for fight or flight. We're looking for danger. So we're negatively actually wired. So, change is really difficult to do. And the only way I generally believe you can change is you've got to want to do it yourself. I really want to do this for me. This is for me. Secondly, I need help to do this. That's why people hire coaches, PTs. It's not that they don't know how to do it. They need somebody to hold them accountable for the change that they want to make. And accountability and discipline has a bit of a bad, rubber in business, and it shouldn't. If you want to make the change, it's different. If you don't want to make the change, that's different. That's command and control. That's telling. That's different.
So how then, just to throw a spanner in the works and ask you a tough question, how does an organization affect change when they know they need to change, but actually maybe not everybody's willing?
Yeah. And and that's fact. We would often say if you've got 10 people coming onto a workshop, the reality is 2 will probably be quite cynical about it. 2 will be bouncing off the walls, can't get enough of it. And then what you're really after is, can you get some of the 6 to move towards the 2 who are bouncing off the walls? That's really what you're after. It's the middle ground. So that's one thing, which is, I think you have to have expectations. You're right. You're never going to get everybody wanting to change. Some folk just want to do what they do. There is nothing wrong with that at all. Who is anybody to make that judgment? What we're after is the 2 and the 6 that are sitting on the fence that could move, because that is massive culture change. If you get 4 of those 6 to move to the 2, that you're
shift the middle.
Shift the middle, literally. And the other thing I'd say is culture starts at the top. If the top table and their behaviors are not in line with an organization that generally wants to develop its people, it ain't ever going to change. You always just get piecemeal, let's do a couple of
tokenistic.
Yeah. But if the top table generally buy into the fact that developing people delivers results, that's a game changer.
So if you're listening or watching us now, and you're somebody in learning and development within an organization, and we've talked about that kind of like pick off things that like don't do big things, do little things and get them to work.
Yeah.
How would you as a L&D person go, where's the biggest shift I could make? Like, I'm being pressured to do this and this and this, but actually I could go to my, the finance department or whoever I'm accountable to and say, I've identified these areas.
Yeah.
This is the one that we should work on that will give the biggest impact.
Yeah.
How would they approach that?
It's ultimately linked to organizational strategy, isn't it? It's where is that business trying to take? Where's it going? And what, you start off with what's the direction of travel for the organization, and then you build a people plan that supports the direction of travel. It's not the other way around. You absolutely have to support the business objectives. So you prioritize what those business objectives are. And then you go to development. So how do we develop our people to be more productive? How do we develop our people to be better communicators, better leaders? And again, it comes back down to the culture of the organization. Are we trying to build an organization that generally developing its people for the good of the organization and the individual, but for the good of the organization in terms of impact? Or are we, as you say, more of a kind of, big, it's a good thing to do, develop people. Because of course it's a free shot, isn't it? That's why people are our greatest asset. It's just used all the time.
Yeah, it's a great platitude to give.
Of course.
So the big part of that though then is measuring that, because everybody wants to kind of go, well, how does that?
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of companies don't know how to measure.
Yeah.
Like you can pick on specific instances, but how do you measure the shift it's had in an organization?
Yeah.
I know we'll talk about nudge in a minute, but how would an organization actually measure improvement like that?
Well, it could be through anything, whatever. What are the organization's KPIs? What are they actually measuring themselves? It could be their own NPS. It could be customer NPS. It could be revenue. It could be retention of clients. It could be efficiency, reducing the efficiency, the inefficiency of emails, as we just said. It could be a whole number of things. And the way that we measure it is through our tech, by seeing the actual number of nudges or actions that people are taking to deliver whatever that goal is. So it's not just being a better communicator, it's being a better communicator for a reason. I want to be a better communicator because we want to sell more business, or I want to be a better communicator in terms of, inspiring an organization, and therefore our engagement scores go up, and therefore also our customer NPS scores go up. We work with a lot of very senior boards who are brilliant geniuses in terms of their own subject matter expertise, but not great on their feet. They're not great in inspiring an organization to go with them.
You've just seen an election with some people who are not necessarily the most inspiring people.
Exactly.
So it's interesting. I just want to ask you about nudge, because one of the things I see from what you're saying here is, like, if they've got an objective to grow revenue, improve communication through revenue, that if you're just tracking it by revenue, you don't know if the trajectory is there. You don't know, actually, if the revenue goes up, we've won.
Yeah.
But from workshop to revenue, that could be months.
Yeah, it could.
Just talk a little bit about how nudge is helping people see whether there's progress being made, both at an operational level, but at the individual level.
Yeah, I mean, there's two ways. There's one which is literally hard evidence versus KPIs. You know, you get a team of sales guys who are all doing the same thing. You know, we've done some training on maybe something like LinkedIn, and we got a lot of people then to take action, nudge every day, to take, you know, to post and to do all the good things that they should be doing. And then you can track it by things like hits to their website, actual leads generated. That is, it's very easy to see, because what we know is the activity. And in sales is a really good example. It's the activity that delivers the results. But most sales organizations don't track activity. What they track is output.
Mm-hmm.
So we're tracking the first bit, which is a lot of, you know, if you get 20 people all doing the same thing over a 10-week period, you're going to get a result. You know, the consistency of those actions, you're going to get a result. So that's one way that you can actually measure whether or not the thing's working. The other thing as well is it goes back to the same thing, which is activity of nudges. So if I want to be a better leader, I want to be coach, I want to be a better coach, we can track to see, are people putting into place a nudge? Let's say I'm going to be better at empathetic listening. So I'm going to take a nudge, an action every day. That all I'm going to do is every single meeting every interaction I have with one of my team, I'm going to really think about how well I'm listening to really what they're saying. Not listening so that I can then lead them to a place I want them to go. That's not what we're talking about. I'm really empathetic listening. So really proactively listening to what they're saying to me. That can be game changing in terms of engagement, in terms of productivity of a team. Now I've been heard, you know, all of a sudden I've been heard by my manager for the first time. That's coach as a leader. That's not just some, you know, fluffy stuff which is putting your arm around people. I've now been heard. Actually, I'm really struggling with these things. And now I feel that actually I've built the trust now, because Dean's really listening to what I'm saying. Now, all of a sudden, we've got a different team and different team dynamic. And we've seen it because we can see it through all the data. You can see that the manager has taken an action, which is a soft skill, which we're not great at and we're not great at implementing, but then has an output of better engagement, better productivity, better outputs, whatever those outputs are. Can be any part of the business. You know, it can be in operations, it can be in finance. It doesn't matter. Coach as a leader is, well, I'd argue, what else is there? Command and control. Well, good luck with that. You know, I mean, that's great short term, but I don't think, you know, who wants to be told what to do? Nobody. Well, that's the thing, isn't it? No, who wants to be told? Nobody.
No, and you know, the dream scenario is people are working independently. They've got initiative. That's what we want. You have to create a culture of that.
Trust. I trust you. Like the challenge we have at the moment with remote working. You know, I trust you to do the job. You're ultimately going to be. Ultimately, we're going to make a judgment based upon, you know, the output. How you get that output. That's it. That's what you're going to be judged on. But we're here to support you. We're here to help you to do that. But here's also a system. You know, the James Clear book. He talks about, you know, we don't rise to the level of the goals. We fall to the level of the system. But what systems do organizations have? And that's what Nudge is a system. If you want to take it. And this is the thing. It's not
so it's a system of people, a system that helps people develop themselves.
Correct. Exactly that. Because they want to be developed. That's the rub though, Dean. It's I want to do this. This is for me. This is for me. This is not for Dean. Yeah, I want to develop. I want to be a better whatever that is. I want to be better at this. I want to be better at that skill because I want to do it for myself. Now I'm really interested, right? And now I'm in. When ultimately we're all selfish to a certain extent. You look at a photograph. There's 5 people in it. you're in that. Who's the first person you look for?
Yeah,
Yourself.
you look for yourself, yeah.
But that's the same in learning development. So I'm happy I'm a part of a team. Be cool that the team does this. Wasn't this about me? So, but you got to want to do it. And if you don't want to do it, doesn't matter how good the workshop is, the follow up, anything else, doesn't matter. Well, you train people, right?
Yeah.
How many people do you sit in your workshops and they go, oh yeah, I can't wait to get onto LinkedIn. I'm going to be brilliant at this. And you think, great. And then 3 weeks later, you look at their profile just because you're nosy. Nothing. And literally nothing.
I've literally said, I've started now in my workshops saying at the beginning, if you don't have a plan and direct time in your diary to do this work, it will never happen.
Yeah. So don't, and we're quite straightforward with people as well. We say, look, you have a choice now. That's the end of the workshop. You have a choice. Frankly, we would love it if you're on board, but if you're not, that's okay too. Who are we to judge whether you want to do it?
Yeah.
You've paid your money. Hopefully you've got something out of this, but if you don't want to take it on any further, then cool. Then good luck to you. But those who do, which is the 6 and the 2, we're all in. We're all in to help you. But the 2 who don't and are quite cynical about it, best of luck. Like, who are we to tell you that this is how you should do it?
I often find when people are forced to do something, it negatively affects everybody else.
Yeah, you've got to go on a training course. Well, it's normally the first thing we ask in our workshops is, why are you here? Well, I've been told to come here. Okay. Oh, all right. But what would you like to get out of it? Well, I've been told to come here because somebody said I'm not very good at it. It's not. No. So do you want to change that behavior? Not really. Okay. Well,
sit and listen then.
It's going to be a long day. But it's the same with you. I mean, you get people rock up and they go, well, my manager's told me to come along because I'm not very good on LinkedIn. And you go, okay, but do you want to be here? Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
For the phone.
Okay.
I've had one scenario where I walk into a room and everybody's sat around the table, and at the end of the table is 2 people sat with their arms crossed like this. And you do the question, so, and one of them goes, I'll just be honest. I don't want LinkedIn. I don't use LinkedIn. I've got no plans to use LinkedIn. And I go, okay. But you're always going to get those people that it's not for them, and that's cool.
But again, who are we to judge them? Right? If they don't want to do it, you can't make anybody do anything. And that's with learning development, it's very personal. And by the way, it's not as black and white as that, because you get people in between, right?
Yeah.
Which is
nervous.
I'm a little bit curious about this, and I'll give this guy a good listening to, and then I'll make a judgment. And I think what people want is the result, and they want to see the result quickly, or they want to see some sort of output. But then you think about it from a behavioural change point of view. You go to the gym, and you go to the gym for 5 weeks in a row. Don't stand all of a sudden, look in the mirror sadly.
But that's why most people quit the gym, though, isn't it?
Of course.
It's actually, I want a long-term change. Right. I want a significant change.
Yeah.
But I'm not seeing the rewards of instant results.
Exactly. So therefore I'm going to give up. But actually, often what we see is that they're normally pretty close to a big breakthrough. But of course, they've given up too early. But again, all goes back to behavior. That's why behavioral change is so, because it's dull, isn't it? It's dull going to the flipping gym 5 days. It's dull. So you have to find a way. That's where you need the support, because it's when it gets rough, that's when you need the PT or the business coach to say, come on, you look where you were. In our workshops, when we do the workshops, we get people to do things. Beginning of the workshop to even when they end, it's massive. And you go, that's in a day. Like, if you practice this stuff, how good do you think you're going to be in 6 months' time? You are going to be really good.
I'm just reminding, when my kids were really young, like my youngest would be like, I want this now.
Yeah.
You can't have everything you want now. Life doesn't work like that. And here I am as an adult going, yeah, I want it now.
Well, you're a business owner, right?
I don't think we ever get over the fact that as a child, we wanted everything now. We wanted it our way. And then as an adult, we want everything now and want it our way.
But you're a business owner. You want results and more results and more results. And it's like, well, why can't we get there? And it's like, yeah, but where did you start, Dean? Like, there's the context right there. It's like, well, you started here and now you're here. It's like, I know, but I want there. And it's like, well, okay, but it's not, and what it definitely isn't, which we know with development, what it definitely isn't is a straight line. I mean, it's all over the place, isn't it? It's like, it's up, it's down. I'm not doing well at this, or I'm feeling, I've tried to put this into practice and do my empathetic listening, that's not working. And it's so easy then to just say, I'm not going to do it.
There's always that dip, isn't there? Like always. A big lull before you actually really get it.
I've had a crap week at home, I had a crap week at work. I'm just not feeling great about it. But that's where good coaching comes in, which is, well, okay, but that's 4 weeks in. You've had 3 really good weeks. And this is a crap week. So dust yourself down, get back on the horse. We're going again on Monday. And that's often the point where people quit because they can't remember the first 3 weeks because everything is immediate, isn't it? We live in this, kids are like they want everything now.
Well, it's social media. Social media has not made us more patient. Jeremy, so Nudge. You help companies implement Nudge systems. You've got an app that you can tailor for the companies. Who's it a good fit for?
Any organization that basically wants to implement the learning that they're putting in. Any organization. It helps 100% with embedding the learning. So any organization that is looking to get a better return on investment from their learning and development resources.
Awesome. So we'll put a link to Nudge wherever you're watching, listening. We'll put a link there. Go and contact Jeremy. We'll put Jeremy's contact details on there as well. Brilliant. Go find him. And if you're serious about developing your people, and maybe you're having these challenges of how do we embed, Nudge is the way to go. So Jeremy, thank you for coming on the podcast.
Brilliant.
And thank you for comparing notes on all sorts of things.
No problem.
It's been brilliant to have you here.
Yeah, great. Thanks so much. Thank you.
That's a wrap for this episode of my podcast. If you love this, please share it on your socials, share it with your friends, and come and connect with me on Instagram, LinkedIn, or X.